Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Cotman Crawford and the Jersey Guy podcast.
Yo!
All right, what's going on? So today we are doing another 420 edition episode, but this episode is going to be the Cannabis Connoisseurship.
Yes, that is you, Tom.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
So what is Cannabis Connoisseurship, right? What is Cannabis Connoisseurship? So you know how people are into their wine, their fine wines.
Right.
They drink their wine, they do wine tasting, they go, maybe it's a nice note of vanilla in there.
Yes.
In the barrel.
Little cherry.
You know, same thing with, you got your bourbon. People
Yeah.
who are into whiskey,
Right.
you know, they find scotch, single malt.
And the same can be done with cannabis.
Same can be done with cannabis.
And Tom is our connoisseur.
Yes,
I am.
he is.
I actually, you know, it was kind of one of those things for me that happened on accident. I was, I was smoking or whatever, and I happened to, the match kind of went out, right? And it was like almost out. It was like very low temp. When I lit, I tasted the flavor. I said, "Whoa, why am I tasting these flavors I never tasted in the weed before?"
Right.
And it was because I looked up, I used AI. I said, "Why is this?" And they're like, "Well, it's low temperature flame. If you want more low temperature flame, get hemp wick." So, I went down this whole thing. So
Right.
I won't give it to you guys in chronological order. I'll
Right.
give you guys more of,
Yeah.
So basically what this episode is we're going to do like a full spectrum look of cannabis connoisseurship, how to evaluate the buds, proper storage, refined methods of consumption, whether you're seasoned
Right.
or just leveling up. This one's about savoring the full experience.
So we want to start with the which part? Like, what
The
would be
buds.
first? The buds?
So the first is the bud inspection. Right?
Okay,
So,
cool.
We gotta do the butts.
where you get it from, you get it from,
Right.
your dispensary, or if you have a friend or
Your homie.
you know, whatever. You get it, you want to inspect it, right? And after you buy it, I actually have a jeweler's loupe. I look at it. I know that sounds crazy, but like when you start getting into it, you take the jeweler's loupe and you can actually inspect the bud, and you look at it and you can actually see the trichomes. And if they're milky colored, that actually means that they were picked at the right time. If they're clear, that means they picked it too early. And if it's got like an amber color, it's later, and it's actually a lot of the THC turns to CBN, which is like kind of like, it makes you sleepy and relaxed, and
Right.
it is semi-psychoactive, but it's like a weaker version.
Right.
Typically when you go to dispensary, I've always been like milky colored,
Right.
but you also see trichome density. Sometimes
Does
you
that-
take a bud and it looks like it's been dipped in sugar.
Right. What is that
right,
stuff?
yeah.
What is that white stuff that they put on
that's
that?
the THC and the terpenes.
That's crazy.
That's what
That's
what you want.
You're adding
That's
more
what
on
all-
top of what you're already smoking.
What do you mean?
So in other words, I'm like that guy on the video.
Yeah.
Right? Are you all right?
Yeah.
No. So I'm saying trichome density. The actual bud, you can see how dense that is.
Right,
Sometimes
right.
it will look. A typical one will be, it'll be like frosted, and some of them are like heavily frosted.
Right. And they grow
that's-
that way?
And that's, yeah.
They grow like that.
Because they bred the buds to, to be, some of them are high percentage. Like
Wow.
the one that you had was like 40%. That's very high. They
Right.
had to selectively breed them kept selectively breeding to get a higher THC until
Right.
they got that high THC. Also, I'm sure, with proper gardening techniques and all that
Right.
stuff.
Of course.
They,
Right.
they get the plant to
Everything
produce
was,
the proper nutrients to give it what it needs. But yeah, so that is something you look for. Also, so the next step is smelling. Now, there's actually a science behind smelling bud. People they smell like, oh, this is nice. But what actually happens is the terpenes, that's what gives the buds their scents. If you have like a sativa, like a
Right.
typically they're very piney smelling,
Yeah.
very lemony smelling, because those terpenes are more of the uplifting type terpenes, like
Right.
limonene, pinene. Those are like your uplifting ones. So you see those more in sativas.
That's the one that you get stuff done in the house that day.
So the sativa is the more concentrating, like for you to focus.
Typically,
That
those
gives you
terpenes
more.
are found in, and those terpenes are also found in indicas, which is like a more relaxing type.
Right.
But I try to stay away from that saying because we're finding now that like you can have like a sleepy sativa. Believe it or not, they're more introspective type where you're kind of
right
now,
right, not necessarily doing anything physical. You'd be right,
but anyway, I was getting a little ahead of myself.
My fault. My bad.
No, sorry. So, no, it's okay. So like when you when you break it open, so what happens is there's actually a scientific thing.
Yeah, I want to break it up and roll it and to put it in a joint.
Right.
Sometimes you'll smell it and you go, oh, that smells really good.
It does.
Other ones you'll go, oh, this is all right. That's actually your endocannabinoid system that's reacting to it. Sometimes what'll happen is like if your body is like craving something, like maybe you're kind of sad or whatever, typically you'll be driven more to the ones that are like antidepressant, like those sativas.
Right.
It's a very weird thing, but there's a scientific method to sense the scent thing, though. Not that I don't know if that part is. It could be. Scent is
very powerful.
Yeah, not scientists. You just know what's good.
Yeah, but
scent is very powerful.
Yeah, but the actual terpenes. So, like, okay, if you know someone that is like, when they smoke too much, oh, freaking out, man.
Right.
Something like that happens. A trick is you could take peppercorns,
right,
and you can break them up and smell them.
Right, I remember you said that.
From peppercorns is caryophyllene.
Right,
caryophyllene is actually what gives some bud its peppery flavor or peppery smell, but that is a more calming one. So it actually will bring someone down just from smelling the peppercorn. Like you take like peppercorn, crush it up, and put it in your finger and smell it. Your nasal passages like smell the terpenes, and it actually activates the terpenes.
Right.
Whoa.
And that kind of balances out for you.
Yeah, it can balance you out, or you can suck on some peppercorns too, or something.
Right, you could do that too. Yeah, but, it's amazing what you could do.
But so that's like also part of it. So pretty cool,
That's wild.
So your body responds to it. But anyway, so you break it open and you want to smell it. You want to smell it and go, oh, what am I smelling? Am I smelling?
It's so different. It's just like it could be so
learning what certain ones are. Like again, as I mentioned, limonene is a lemon smelling one. Gives it a citrus smell. Terpenylene has like a little apple smell to it.
What about the skunky ones?
That's just a mixture of a bunch of them that give it that skunky flavor. I don't
know.
You
get like that serious, crazy, stinky bud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And some of them have a woodsy smelling.
Right.
Some of them have a floral scent. And I don't have all the terpenes written down on me now. I think we went over that on our previous before. But the point is when you smell them, that's what you're trying to pick out. You know what I mean? And then,
right. Listen, it's doing exactly what you were saying earlier about wine. It's doing exactly the same thing, but it's doing it in their own.
So then when you turn around and you're smelling these, though, it's the one that is to your liking is what you should basically go with.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, but you also you go. I think you read too. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's something interesting that someone.
I think the smell alone would judge whether or not you're going to take that one or not.
And also, you're going to check also when you break it open too. You're checking also because you just break it open, and you're going to check to see if it snaps or
if it kind of.
Now again,
still like
sativas, and this is where the difference between sativas and indicas come into play because the actual plant is different. A sativa is a tall plant. It has like these finger-like leaves. The indica is a bush-like plant with like fat leaves.
Okay.
So the actual buds do have different density. Indicas have a more dense nug, as where like sativas are a little more fluffier. So when you break them open, you want to keep that into consideration too, but you want to check to make sure they're not too spongy. If they're too spongy, that means they didn't cure right. That means the dispensary didn't cure them right, I've never had a problem.
Right.
And if they're too dry, they over-cured them, or the package, there was a problem with the packaging and it dried out. And that's not good either.
Yeah.
Now, when you go to the dispensaries and such, do they let you crack them open so you could see that stuff?
No.
See, so that's the part
I know.
That's the part that sucks. Yeah.
You got to do that after you buy it, unfortunately.
Right. So now let's say if you turn around and you buy it and the bud isn't what you wanted it to be.
I wonder if they might have a return policy if it's bad quality.
As long as you didn't smoke it or do anything to it.
Well, I
They
mean,
probably
I know
throw it out
because,
anyway.
If I opened a bag, it's never happened, but if I opened a bag and it was like moldy,
They'd probably throw it away.
I would be like, hey,
Yeah. You're like, here's my receipt. I just
look,
got
it's
this
moldy.
shit. And,
like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah,
Look,
what the fuck is this?
Yes, my receipt says I was here. A half
2
hour
days ago. Right. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah. 10 minutes ago.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Now is the bud the same? I guess we'll say the same idea as far as wine, not as lengthy because you said if it's moldy, but like if you certain ones that you would get that if they sat a little longer.
So
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that's funny you brought that up. That's something I was just actually
like cheese almost.
Right. Yeah.
People, that's something that's kind of into new territory with people is like aging them, but like you can't age them like you can age a wine. You couldn't age it for like 10 years. You could only age it for like a year maybe or something like that.
That like, long? I didn't even think it was that long.
Because eventually it's going to break down. It's not going to be worth anything after that.
Maybe like a year, because the trichomes and stuff break down. But what you can do, and that's where I'm going to go with the next segment is storage.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different types of storage, but what you want is you want glass that is not clear,
right?
Because you don't want sunlight getting in.
Right, that's what you said. That black glass.
Yeah, I'll get into that. That's like top tier. I just want to give people first the basic.
Okay.
So like if you're just looking for storage, you want to be darker. So it's not clear. So UV can't penetrate. You want it to be airtight.
Okay.
Definitely airtight.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But also, and then there's containers like Myron glass. Myron glass is like top tier. That's like elite tier if you want it to storage. It's called black glass or Myron glass. I've seen Infinity Jars too as a company I've seen on Amazon. That's one I bought. And basically what that is it's a special glass that only lets in certain UV lights that actually help preserve the bud better. But you wouldn't put it directly in light because
you wouldn't put it under sun.
It's kind of like if it's in a room that has windows but it's not getting direct sunlight.
Yeah,
it's probably fine that way. I keep mine still in the closet because I still am like I want to keep it dark, just in case, but just
to be sure.
Yeah, so that's top tier, and then this is the game changer, and I think I'm such a big believer in using Boveda packs. The Boveda packs are these little packs, and they're dual acting humidity control. So if it's if the jar is too moist or too dry, it levels it out. So they have different percentages. There's like 58%, which is like if you are like a I guess you would call a stick smoker because there's like if you really smoke blunts, cones, joints, whatever. You would want the 58%. If you were like a pipe smoker, bowls, bongs, 62% is better because you want a little bit more moist for that. You want a little bit drier but that's for they have and then they have a higher one for like long-term storage or rehydration.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, if they're like rehydration, you use them for like 2 weeks, but then you want to pop in like a 58% or 60%.
Okay.
Now, when you put those the packs in, do you put them on top of the weed or at the bottom of the jar?
Either or. You could put it sometimes standing up, sometimes on top, at the bottom. It
like
just needs
in the middle.
to be in there because it's for the air,
Okay.
But I'm a big believer in that because that keeps the bud fresh. It keeps the trichomes from breaking down. Right. And actually keeps the flavor up of because that's the trichomes thing, the flavor. Like that
sounds like something for Star Trek.
Trichomes are, like I said, that's where everything that's where all the medicinal stuff is in. Right?
Okay. Gotcha.
That's where all the terpenes are in, the THC, the rest is just kind of like plant matter.
Right.
Some of it's in the plant, but most of it are in the trichomes.
Okay.
So
now, is there any such thing like after you have the bud or whatever? Because I remember like you take the buds and you would hang them upside down to get to get the THC to come to the rest of the bud that you're gonna end up smoking.
I think that's for curing. Yeah.
Right, but then do you do that when you go and you buy them, or is that like say if you go to the dispensary or whatever?
Oh yeah, that's all. That's everything.
That's already pre-done. Okay.
Yeah. That's the curing's all done. They do that all at the
right. They get that all done,
and
then they put it out for sale.
Yeah.
So then basically after you buy it, It's just a matter of, like you said, putting it in a jar, getting a pack in there if you're going to have it for a little while longer.
Yeah, and now, like I said, I even the dispensaries, like the weed is still a little dry. Like those bring everything back to life, all the flavor, all those. It smells so much better. It tastes better.
Right.
Okay. So now after we stored it.
Yeah.
Now when we turn around and we're going to take it out to smoke it, right? Do we need to put a new pack in the jar?
No. You just
the same one will last for like
until it gets hard. When it starts getting hard, you throw another one.
Then you put the rest in. Then you put it in a grinder, right?
Because
just grind it up
in a 10-pack, and it comes in its sealed package.
Okay.
And that doesn't degrade as fast because you're not opening as often, and the other packs are keeping the whole thing.
All right. Okay.
There's like it's a 10-pack. So if you have like if you have one jar or whatever, you still have another 9 packs.
Got it.
And I think they last like several months or like a year.
So then now what Lou was saying, like now when you take out your bud, that it's sitting in the jar with that. When you take it out and you get ready to smoke, is it better to keep the buds whole, or is it better to grind them?
Oh no,
I grind it down.
Yeah.
But grind it down before you put it in the jar.
Yeah,
and then throw the packs in there so that this way it's already ground up. And
then, no, you want to keep
the bud in the jar.
Right. So then you take the bud out and then you grind it up. That's the way I always do it. I like keeping the buds the way they are.
Well, I didn't know. That's what I'm saying. I figured if you had the pack in the jar,
smell it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, I got you. I thought that keeps it. If you already had the pack, you put in the hydration pack in there or the dehydrated pack in there. That then it would be a different, I guess we'll say like how it just keeps it
fresh.
Yeah,
so it makes it easier for you to smoke it.
And that's the next step too, is the grinding, right?
Okay.
So I've never seen a bad grinder. Most of the grinders
they're all good.
Have the three systems, the grind part, the catch part, and then the keef catcher.
Yeah,
right?
I have that one.
Yeah. And most of them have that, and that's the basic one. And if anybody doesn't know what keef is like the trichomes that, like, as we were talking about, they kind of shave off sometimes from just being shaken or whatever. They're very delicate.
It goes right through the screen into the bottom
tray.
So
what happens, there's a little screen and it catches all the trichomes, and that's keef. And then it's like having like this, it's like espresso of cannabis. You know what I mean? It's just.
Right. So now so the keef, can you smoke that after?
Yeah, you can mix it in.
Not smoke it after. I was going to say mix it in.
Some people, you can.
Smoke it straight up.
Some people make a keef hash.
You probably could smoke it straight up, right?
They press the keef.
Right.
You make little bricks out of them, and you can smoke keef hash. It's really strong stuff.
Now, that's going to be the later on then.
So what's the buzz on that one then? What's the buzz you get from that?
Because it's just a stronger. It's just like if you smoked like a.
Does it go both ways for indica and obviously for indica and for sativa?
Yeah,
right?
but if you have different, unless you have a separate grinder for indica and a separate grinder for sativa,
right? If you're mixing them, it's going to be something. It's going to blend.
It's going to be like hybrid. It's going to be a balanced
blend.
Yeah,
nice.
Unless you're depending. If you smoke a lot of sativa, then there's going to be mainly sativa. Right. It all depends on what's you ground up in it.
Right.
Cool. That's cool.
So, but yeah, grinders are good. So, you wouldn't. I heard people using these electric grinders, like a herb grinder. Like you're going to get it too fine, and what's going to happen is when you go to smoke it, and we'll get into smoking methods too. When you go to smoke it, it's going to burn up too hot, and it's going to cook off everything.
Even if you burn it, if you light it up at a lower heat.
Yeah, because it's so fine, it just catches.
Oh, no
you
shit.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, a powder. So powder is.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. I got you. It burns too quick.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Right. You want it to take a little while.
It's okay if the keef
get a nice
is in
little,
there. It is mixed in.
Cherry going, right?
Got
yeah.
You.
You know what I'm saying?
Keef is.
Not that I know anything about.
Anyway.
Yeah, I got no idea.
So there's, tools of the trade, glass pipes, bubblers, joints, vaporizers.
Yeah.
I'm not. Vape pens are like usually what people get. There's the dry herb ones.
I want to try that one.
I've never personally had them. That's something I've never, because I've heard so many mixed bags about them, and they're just so expensive.
They are
like
expensive.
Packs, they're like, I think they're like over $300 or something like that.
No.
I think they're. I think I could be wrong.
The one I saw was about 150.
Wow. Okay, it was 150. Okay.
Yeah. And now, wait a minute. So now, for me, what I know is a vape is you have the pen, and then you have
a dry
liquid.
vape.
Right. So then, what's the difference? What's
the
dry vape?
Burning it without the oil or anything.
Yeah, it's like steam. It's like to the point where just under combustion. You know what I mean? Where it just
really?
like it like roasts it basically, and then because basically, so like that's the thing that
gives you the right temperature for it.
So when you're smoking,
Gotcha.
whether it be a blunt, a cone, or a joint, the part that the part where the cherry, that part is vaporizing the weed that's next to it. That's the actual part. Oh. That's the actual part that you're getting the THC from. You're not actually getting it from the cherry.
Of course, that I know.
The cherry is
what's coming off of it, what's burning off.
It's next to the cherry what vaporizes.
Right. You're pulling that in.
So a low temperature is better. Because high temperature, you just get more burn.
So then what's the cherry? What is the cherry? Like
the cherry is just the top of the, it's the hottest part of
the hottest part. It's the amber.
But behind it is where you're getting
and then
all that
part
burn
becomes
off.
the cherry.
Right, just burns its way down like a cigarette.
I'm like, what the fuck is
just
in
like a
there?
cigarette?
Like,
just like
what
a cigarette.
the hell is that? I got it. All right, understood.
That's why it makes no sense to like smoke it to the end, the joint, because if you're smoking the cherry, there's nothing. It's already the THC's already cooked off.
I know what technically the cherry is. I'm sorry. I know what the cherry look is. I didn't know what was burning is what I meant. I'm like, then wait a minute. If that's what's burning, now I understand what you're saying. So, okay, that makes sense. All right, I got it.
Whether it's a tube or bowl or whatever.
Got you. Okay. Now, does it burn the same in the pipe as like in a one hitter? You feel me?
I find that everything I've done it from is always different. It's always different.
This is another thing, and
you got to be careful too, because you could get you get a big hit off of something if you never smoked from it before. It'll knock you on your ass. You gotta get some pepper and bust out some pepper, man.
Yeah.
So this is what I was showing you guys before is the plasma arc lighter.
Right.
That I think is like the best because, like I said, that low temp is when you start like really tasting the terpenes and flavors. And like, you're getting like, oh wow, I can taste like
you're definitely turning into a connoisseur of such.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why when you get like one called blueberry cruffin and you actually light it at a low temperature and it tastes like a blueberry pastry.
That's
cool.
It is.
With a little bit of weed taste.
Of course.
Like,
that goes without saying.
Okay.
But anyway, so I get that plasma arc lighter. That's the second best I think is like hemp wick. Which, remember I brought that to you guys one time too?
He bought that,
It's a low temp flame, but it's still a flame. But the plasma arc lighter, that's like, I think, again, that's top tier because you're getting it where you're just getting it to its lowest combustion point. The longer you leave it on it, the more it combusts. That's how it works.
Right.
You're basically electrocuting the bud.
Okay.
So when you leave on there, the second it like, you see a cherry, you let go because otherwise it flames up. So it's like the longer you leave it on there, the more it flames up. So if you can get it where it just is a cherry and let go, it's super low temp. And then you're just basically, the draws you take off it is what's going to make the cherry hotter.
Should work at a dispensary.
Like a plume.
Yeah, dude. He needs to just have a dispensary, dude.
I've gotten this is my this is my
dream.
This is my neurodivergency.
Wow, man,
my special interest.
Yeah,
it's my special interest.
It's very interesting.
Well, because that's what like Tom has said too. For those listening, is he wants to open up a smoke lounge. So this way you can have all the different kinds of weed there and
this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to do classes on Cannabis Connoisseurship.
Yeah, man. That's so freaking
that's
great.
Something I would love.
Yeah, we're going to have to look into that. Once we start selling our merch and whatnot,
anybody
we'll start.
who wants to join my class, let me know. Message me.
Oh, yeah. Message Tom. Yeah, we're going to have a dispensary. He's going to be the cocktail guy.
So that's...
Yes.
So
a
that's
mixologist.
That,
You're going to be a marijuana mixologist.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Holy shit.
Blendology.
Yes.
Right, blendology.
Yeah, well, then that will, I guess that'll make you a botanist.
See, I'm so crazy with this stuff. I actually started writing down blend names of the blends I'm mixing together.
Yeah.
Wow.
I came up with one called Jack Flash.
Okay.
So that is 80% Jack hair, sativa, blended with a hybrid of 20% runts.
Ooh.
Got that from Lou.
Yeah, that's right, the runts. Yeah.
And it's when you mix those two together, it's a very visual, you kind of trip out a little bit.
Okay.
It's a very high amount of terpenylene from both those strains.
Okay.
So it's very flashy. So Jack Hair and the flashiness, Jack Flash.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go. That's a good one,
I like
bro.
it. You just crossed them together, man. That's awesome.
Now, do you have to, sorry, I know you're getting to the next thing, but now
good.
When you turn around and you mix them, you're not mixing.
You know what's funny? This is the next part.
That's okay. Good.
Yeah, so we
let's start with this
right
question.
into it. There we go.
So now, when you turn around and you mix these, okay, you're not being the botanist and crossbreeding the plant.
No.
You're just taking the buds
And
mixing them.
Yeah, in the grinder.
The grinder.
So I do a 10 pebble method, I call it.
Okay.
Where when I break off the buds, I break them off into an visually equal size
Mm-hmm.
and try to get 10 of those. So if you're blending, what you do is, say you want 80%, you take 8 of those pebbles, and then 20%, as I said, the Jack Flash, 20% of the runts.
Right.
And then you put it in the strainer, in the grinder.
The grinder.
Boom, 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 boom. Pour it out. You can mix it if you want with sorry, you heard that on my,
I
apologize.
No, it's fine.
I have my phone on silent.
Yeah. But go ahead.
That's
so you
good.
mix it
Anyway,
together. Go ahead.
Yeah. So then you mix it together, and then, you have your roller tray, which most people have.
Mhm.
Right.
And then you could just, you can take a credit card or something or anything, or just something to mix it up with. It should already mix technically
Right.
in the grinder.
Right.
Yeah.
So now here's my other
You
now
blend
that
it
you
together.
because you said what you said.
Yeah.
So now what is the keef like with that?
So the keef, there are different ways to mix and keef in. Some people,
Right.
if you're just going to have straight up keef, then you just put it, I don't think you can put it in a joint. You can probably put it in a bowl.
I don't think a bowl.
Keef.
Really
But
a bowl.
But with what I do with keef is like when I'm loading, I like cones because they're easy. I'm not a skilled joint roller.
Yeah, right. I get you that. Yeah.
I'm a connoisseur of this stuff, but I have no skill.
I can't roll it. I can tell you about everything, but I can't roll it. Yeah,
so
I got you.
I like cones because they're very easy to. If I have a cone loader, it's easy to, load it in. So I would tap, I would put a little bit of the ground stuff,
Mhm.
and then I would layer it, put some of the keef, and then you could do that, or you can, while you have it already in the tray, you can sprinkle the keef in, and
Now
it'll actually cling to the.
So where I was going with this is that then when you grind it all up after you're mixing all your different, herbs, that then the keef is a mix of all those herbs.
Yes.
So that then
you're getting a
variety of everything.
Variety of whatever
because you said that you would take your keef and you would mix it up in
and
places.
if you're a big sativa smoker, it's going to be mainly sativa.
Right. So then again, now if you have all that keef and you're putting it in something else and stashing that, you need to be careful when you're going to smoke it because you could be
it's very strong.
So you're going to be
very strong.
Or it's just the right. It's just the right. You get enough sativa. Enough indica in it, just enough to take the edge off.
Yeah,
that could do it too because you get a little less of that depending on what you. Like you said, you smoke more of. You smoke more indica or mostly.
You
do both. You do it at a certain time too because
like
indica helps you relax and want to sleep, where the other one can make you want to be productive and read or.
So I've been actually taking notes on the different blends I take and
build a model
the flavors. Like another one, I called it Juicy Jack. Again, Jack Hair.
The Jack Hair.
50% Jack Hair, 50% Juicy J.
Okay.
Juicy Jack.
Okay. So you're actually keeping track of what you're mixing at the house.
Yeah. I'm a maniac.
Dude, that is
insane. Starting to come to light.
Great.
That's
not a bad hobby,
people
bro.
who are like autistic that have special interests. That's me.
Yeah.
So
it's not a bad one to have, in all honesty, because again,
not at all.
You're doing it, and you're going to be able to. So
you dove into that, man.
Yeah, but this is a class. So I don't smoke like that at all, not even close. But you guys,
I don't do what he does.
No. But I'm saying, that then Tom could turn around and because of what he does,
he
and how he
educates
looks
me,
at it, he educates you, and then that'll turn around and put you to where like, oh, you know what, I can do this. You talking about it now in this episode, that now people that are watching and listening, that they're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
And another tip too.
What?
And not only that, you know what the other thing is too. If you have it at a low temp, you're actually sparing your lungs like a lot of tar, because when you smoke at a low temperature, you'll notice that the smoke, the ash is more black than white. But if you smoke it with like a Bic or whatever, and it's super hot, you'll notice the ash is like super white.
Right, I got you.
Busted everything, and you don't want, again, the medicinal components of the cannabis. They cook off at a lower temperature than the rest of everything else. So if you're cooking at a low temperature, there's less tar.
Right, and you're getting more out of it.
Yeah, so it's
benefit.
It's very important. Yeah. So that's the other thing. So I'm big on the low temperature for that.
That makes sense. It's not that you won't get high, because you will.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't know that there was tar in it.
And that's also why it tastes better too.
Yeah, it's tar.
Because you're gonna
because it's resin.
After you're not tasting all the charcoal and all that.
Yeah, see, I never would have thought that because because for me in my head is I'm just smoking the weed.
But if you're doing it all the time, every day, then that's an issue. Right?
Well, no. I'm just saying, like, I'm talking
as far
about
as the tar is concerned.
Yeah, I never would have thought about there even being tar. Like, I'm just like, I know
but it's not. It's
not.
No
one's chain smoking.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I know. I knew some people.
I guess it's for whoever. Each person is different.
Okay.
Right. So it's going to affect them all based on how much they're doing.
Gotcha.
That's really what's going to come down.
Yeah, I never would have thought about there being tar, bro.
Like, if you're a lightweight, it's going to be very little.
Yeah,
you don't need a lot, so you don't really burn a lot.
Right.
Just only when you need to, and it only burns for like a few seconds, that long.
No shit. That's why.
If you know, I'm saying if you're just doing it that way, and that's all you need to hit. A couple of hits, boom, you feel good, and you're on your way.
So now the tar, there's no quote unquote keeping the tar, if you will. Like it's not like it doesn't leave a resin.
Well, you can. There is resin. You can get resin.
So now the tar is the cooked resin. Right. You know, that's the shit you don't.
That's not.
You want the resin.
Not like
resin,
the after. So it's not like so it's not like mixing it with the keef kind of
and
shit.
And that's like what the smoke produces when it sticks to like like when you see someone who has someone who like chain smokes cigarettes and they got the brown seed where they smoke every day above where they smoke
like their lounge chair and shit. Yeah. Okay. All right. I got you.
It's in the smoke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right.
But when you at a low temperature, there's less of it.
And you won't get all that shit because
less.
It's all still left on that. Okay.
Like a lot less.
Yeah.
So that's the good thing. And that's also and that's why you actually taste the terpenes, because the the tar carries all like the afterburn and the burn
all the nasty
matter, all the it's just like all the charcoal stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, it's all the charred shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where like you're getting less of that, so that's the goal, is to get less of that.
Right.
So it's healthier.
It's come a long way now.
I mean, I don't want to say healthier, but you know what I mean.
Well, you're getting more out of it,
you're getting
beneficial wise, versus the just getting catching a buzz.
And in turn, you're getting more flavor.
Right.
So
that's insane, bro.
Yeah.
So now when
the flavor's not masked by the burned crap.
So now how different is it? Smoking out of a one hitter or out of a pipe or a bomb.
It's just the size of something is really all it is. Like if you one hitter is just a little bit, right? It's just to get you a quick whatever.
But that's
then you could do a pipe, which is a different bowl, and it depends on how deep you want or pack the bowl. Do you want to put a little in the bowl or you want to pack the bowl? Meaning you want to. Okay. So it's just up to whatever you do.
But the other thing is too, if it's a pipe though. It's like if you really want to get those flavors, you have to like stay on top of cleaning it. Like mine, I clean after every use of them.
Right.
But you got to take 90% alcohol. Don't waste your money on those pipe cleaners that they sell at the head shops. They're like, they're not terribly priced, but like you just go to Target or your supermarket
and $2 or whatever, and you
buy the 90. I think it's called 90 plus alcohol.
Yeah.
And it dissolves the resin left over. You got a nice clean pipe ready to go.
And it doesn't taste any different depending on what you clean with.
Oh, and salt too. In coarse salt. Because alcohol cannot dissolve in alcohol. Salt cannot dissolve in alcohol. It's a chemical. There's actually a chemical reason for it. I looked it up.
Yeah.
So in other words, it stays behind. You see it.
So what happens is the alcohol melts the resin, and the coarse salt, when you shake it, scrubs. So you get scrubbing action, and so it's a little trick, and then you just rinse it out with water, dry it out,
and you're good to go.
Good to go.
All right, cool. That's interesting.
Same thing with bongs and any type of smoked, dry pipe.
You didn't know any of that.
That's what I'm saying. Just put this in the paper and keep it moving.
I think we should change the water in the bong.
I think everybody's done the Pepsi can trick. You bend it, you poke.
I've done that before.
I know not of what y'all speak.
Yes. You think we should change the water in the bong, man?
Yeah.
I was saying that earlier.
I heard of people using apples back in the day.
Yes,
I did that too.
I did the apple.
I
did the apple.
I never tried.
The apple, but to me,
I did the apple. I figured it out.
It didn't taste anything like, to me, it's different. You think
so? It did, yeah. I guess it depends on the apple too.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Right? So depending on So I did it with like
So you
I'm
think
gonna
I
have to
should
guess it was
teach
a
a class?
Macintosh.
You think
Huh?
I think I have enough knowledge?
Dude,
to teach
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think
Because,
it's I think
I
it's
didn't even
interesting
go that
to,
deep into it. I could go
that you-
deeper. You know,
but just think of what they're doing, right? Like what you're just talking about, but think about all the benefits
Yeah.
they could do it medically too.
Yeah.
It's
right. So
amazing.
then that's what, so right now, so
So
we've
they're
done,
and they're doing their own blend or whatever. They're
Right.
doing,
right.
you
So
know what I
we've
mean?
done an episode. We did an episode on the medicinal benefits of smoking weed. So we did that. Now we're learning about how hot to have it. You know,
Right.
how to smoke, what's the different, things to
To
look
get the
for
best
in it.
out of it and do it
Like I
safely
said,
at the
people
same
do
time.
that, like I said, people do this with wine. People
Mhm.
do this with craft beer. People
Mhm.
do this with different spirits, like
Yeah.
Right.
fine tequilas, fine bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
cool.
the same thing.
Yeah.
You know,
we
it's,
gotta,
I remember
it-
back in the
you-
day when
you-
we would
you know.
get it.
yeah, that's the shit. You
It
do
would be
it.
in a foil,
Well, yeah.
and it would be so moist,
Yeah.
so
Really?
moist.
Yeah.
You have to cut it with a razor,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
and it would have like day glow blue, and green colors, like bright,
Oh.
like these hairs going in and out of it. Man,
Mhm.
what'd you get? Oh, dude, it stunk to high heaven.
Yeah. That's freaking
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah. No,
you have
it
to
would
go
be-
somewhere to give them $10, and they
Yeah.
slip it through a door.
Yeah. Remember that shit?
That's what they
bro?
told
Mine
me
was-
anyway.
Yeah.
I-
Or stores. Yeah. Go to a store.
When I was in high school, it was in like the 90s. They had those little tiny bags, like a nickel
Uh-huh.
bag.
Yeah, they started going to
Yeah,
the plastic
little
bags.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Size of your thumb. Yeah. That is freaking
And
great.
it was ground up and it had seeds. And
I always found the ones that I got in the foil
Yeah.
were better
it's a
for
shit.
some
what?
reason. The ones that came in foil.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Wasn't that hash though? They came in the foil?
No, you got definitely.
Yeah.
Where when it was copped, it came in foil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
That's
Yeah,
freaking
and
great.
the plastic started to come later on,
Right.
where they started doing the bags.
That's freaking
You know?
hilarious. Yeah, no, listen, it would be cool to be able to go to a place like you're saying, like with your knowledge, to have people like that and be able to just, what? I'm feeling, let me have this,
Because he can go into a
6-month
dispensary and
old.
have this whole conversation with the guy
Right.
behind the counter for like
But
an
then-
hour before he
right.
even makes the decision of what he's going to get.
So imagine if he was like the quote unquote bartender.
I impress bud tenders sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're
I do.
right. So
I believe
you're the
it.
bud tender, you're the cocktail.
Like, whoa. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Maybe you missed your calling, my friend.
Well, no, it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
No,
man.
that's right. You
Yeah.
can do it at
You
any
can do it.
time.
Yeah, that'll be your part-time
I
gig.
take it back.
Yeah, but
a side hustle. Yeah, no
yeah,
problem.
but it would be cool because I think, like you said, one of the coolest ideas I've heard is to be able to have a cigar shop, but
Yeah.
a smoke shop where you can actually go in there and hang out.
I'm
and
sinking in the
smoke it.
chair like a.
Now that's freaking hilarious. That is too fun. But yeah, man, to have a spot where you can actually
Reminds
go
me of the
and
bad
smoke
commercial
out.
from the 90s. You remember that one?
Oh
like-
yeah,
Oh, we smoked
Yeah.
marijuana.
Yeah.
Flat.
yeah,
Right.
I was like,
Ah.
that looks like someone who's
yeah. That's
fucking
that's
heroin.
different.
That don't look like
Yeah.
yeah, that heroin.
No, I never got
that
like
don't
that.
look like someone high.
No,
That's fun.
no, definitely.
But yeah,
It's kind of cool, man. So like I said, we go to the burning it. Like
Yeah.
how when you're smoking and whatnot.
yeah.
And now let's say you don't finish the whole joint, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
said that you take the extras and you put it into that glass, into that jar and whatnot.
Oh no, I don't do that. I do it with the extra grind.
Oh, the
Grind, yeah. No,
grind,
you're not
yeah.
using anything from
Oh.
the actual thing you smoke.
Yeah.
It's
Even
bef-
if you don't smoke
what you
like
doing before?
Well, because I mean, like you don't smoke the whole thing.
Because
I just
when I
leave it. If I
grind it-
burn it already, I just save it and then I go back to it.
okay. All right.
I'm not going to
Because when
break
I
it up.
grind it,
Mm-hmm.
You don't need
As
to
I
break
was
it up
explaining to
again.
you guys before the show, I'm not a. I don't. I do actually smoke more indicas
Mm-hmm.
because I actually use it medicinally. I have
Right.
really bad insomnia.
Mhm.
So I typically don't put much of those until I have like a thing called like a infinite. I don't think I mentioned it yet. I have like a thing called the infinity jar or whatever. Like I
Mhm.
just
Right.
anything extra I put into it, and it's like a blend. And it's
Yeah,
just like a
that's
mix
all.
of all
I've done that,
different
yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, everything that's in my
Yeah.
the bottom of my keep, the thing you put in that little
Yeah.
jar for me, that's from
Yeah.
many different
But I
kinds.
do,
Right.
but I
Yeah,
do the
see,
same.
I
thing
have no
basically with the
idea.
keef, is
Zooty.
anytime I have extra, I just put it in that jar,
Right.
and it collects, and then
Now you were saying too when you take the keef and you kind of like compact it. How
they
do you
have
do that?
presses. It's a special press with like a clamp press. It's like a
Oh
crank.
no way!
They make like these little
You
crank.
need a lot,
it's
though.
little
How
disc.
big does it get?
You gotta have a good amount.
Yeah, you got to have a lot, right?
Some people, and that's the thing too. There's a misconception about keef. Some people think that if you use like like an electric grinder, like a bullet or something like that. You get a lot of keef, but it's just actually fine ground weed. Like I was saying before, it's not actually keef. Like keef is literally the trichomes shaved off.
Yeah. So that's why you need the grinder.
Yeah.
And not the blender.
And that little, that little screen at the bottom.
Yeah.
All the trichomes that break off.
Well, it goes through the screen. It goes into the bottom of the tray.
Every time you pick the cannabis or touch it, it just or it hits something, like sometimes trichomes break off.
Now, how do you store those? So when you take it and you're cleaning out the screen, you're cleaning out your grinder.
Keef. Yeah, there's little keef holders. Little keef containers, little tiny containers for them.
Is it airtight?
Airtight. Yeah, they got little gaskets on them.
Okay, yeah, right. Look at it. You're like, yeah, he's gonna come back and right. We're gonna smoke this keef, Lewis. Yeah,
it's crazy because think about it, if you just do it for a long time,
right,
and it's always a different strain of something.
Yep, and
even if you then you mix it all up and then you use it.
Dude, you know what that is? That you would forget what you have in your keef mix. You don't know if you're high, not high, if you're walking on water,
whatever it's whatever you've been putting in the grinder,
right?
Now, how long?
That's why if you really want to get crazy about it, and that's something I actually thought about doing, is a second grinder and have a grinder for indica and a grinder for sativas.
Ooh.
So when I get my keef, I have a keef that's got more uplifting and one and a keef that's more sedating and relaxing.
Right.
Now, how much keef do you? How much keef?
It takes a long time.
That's what I was going to ask. Like how much?
Yeah, because it's so fine. It's very fine.
Yeah, because it's like shit.
So if you have a brand new or cleaned out grinder,
right?
And you grind one grinding session, you open the keef collector, it's just like a little.
It's just
it looks like a little dusting,
but nothing that you can.
Yeah,
you're not even close to being able to use it.
So it's probably I would say probably after like 40 grinds,
40.
You'd want to start scraping it out.
Shut up.
Yeah.
I didn't even think it was going to be that much.
Yeah, I mean you could go like 10, but it would be so thick.
It just wouldn't be enough.
I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't even mess with it. I just kept doing it. My whole goal was to fill it up.
Yeah.
And then clean it out. And then,
yeah, that makes
Tom
sense.
did it already for me. He took it all
you don't
out.
want it, unless you're using it like a lot, because, it dries out.
I haven't
just like the weed.
Really?
You know what I mean? That's why you want to put it in the keef. That's why I say you put it in the keef container. So it
stays.
Yeah, locked in. Yeah.
All right, cool.
I'm crazy about that too. Like I said, I keep my grinder in a airtight container.
Wow. So, you keep the grinder in an airtight.
I do.
Oh, well, but it makes
like
sense.
That.
Wow,
but it makes sense
because of keef collector.
Right, exactly. Because that makes sense. Because then that was going to be my next thing.
Like because then I'm very. I shouldn't say crazy. It's not nice. I try to move away from that word anyway. But I'm really into it. You know what I mean?
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
No, you know a lot about it, which is pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
And I've never dove into it that way ever, to that depth as far as where you've gone to it, But
I'm just like, how do we get it better? How do we get it better? I'm like a little obsessed. I'm like,
Well, I'm waiting for you to start getting into it, the medicinal wise, you know what I'm saying? And doing that stuff.
Well, he'll come up with his own blend for sleep.
And that's what I'm saying. Well, sleep, like, I said, so I am officially diagnosed
come up with the Cotman Crawford blend.
There you go. But like for me now,
Jersey guy blend, right?
Yeah, the Jersey guy blend. That now I have the degenerative arthritis. So then I'd be like, Tom, what should I use? Not so much that I want to smoke out or whatever, but that then I can turn around. I'm like,
you're like, NJ guy blend.
You can use this, put this in your tea or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like
carotene and linalool are two terpenes that are good for.
What the hell are you calling a lily loo?
Yeah, this guy.
That's a floral.
I'm just kidding, bro.
That's where you'll get more of your floral scent cannabis.
Right.
Usually it's a secondary terpene, not like one of the main terpenes.
Right.
Sometimes,
dude. Like a fucking encyclopedia.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, that would be so freaking fantastic. Like I said, that he could turn around and be like, all right, cool, try this, Ken, get on that one. And, like I said, just to slow down the arthritis pain and whatnot. Like, that's what like I said, that's fucking awesome, bro. I appreciate you for that shit, bro.
Yeah. I'll double check. It might not be little though, but I that might be one that's good for pain because I don't ever look for it.
Well, just
I never look for it for that.
Well, even
There's
still,
that's what
I'm saying. The anti-inflammatories had this way,
Right.
I don't want to be like high and falling
that.
on die.
Listen, they use cannabis to help people who are getting off of a drug addiction.
Right, yeah.
And they say it makes them easier for them to get through it versus if they go the other way. And it just,
that's what I'm saying.
For some people it works. For some people it really works really well.
So I'm waiting for you to turn around and get on it because I'll trust what you say before, I trust most other people because I'll just be sitting in the house, reaching for butterflies that aren't there. And that's, I get nervous.
That's not a bad thing.
You know what they say about butterflies, right?
No, what?
They're free to fly.
Wow. Here we go. That's great. Well, so bro, thank you very much because that was more informative than short.
That was a fun episode for me.
Hell yeah, that was great. So
check us out on everything.
420, right? This is what
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Check us out.
We are going to be uploading this episode. Well, why am I telling you?
No.
We think we're live. Sometimes we think we're live. We actually are live, but we're being recorded.
Yeah. Live in front of a studio audience.
In front of a studio audience.
Yeah. Tell everybody on the social media.
But no, so I'm saying, so with this episode, this is going to air 420.
Yes.
Yep. There we go. So we're in
Easter Day.
Yep. So with that, peace and humptiness forever.
Live long and prosper.
And go vegan.
Holla.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.